Hello and welcome to Community Talk RVA. I'm your host, Jessica Cowardin. Joining us today is Lawrence Roberts with New York Life Insurance to talk about retirement planning. Welcome, Lawrence. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Jessica. Thank you for allowing me to come here.
Well, I have a ton of questions for you today. Retirement planning, I know, is such a broad topic, but let's dig into it a little bit. And let's start at the beginning. Where do we start with retirement planning?
Wow, that's a good question, Jessica. Retirement planning starts with, of course, you have to earn an income, have a paycheck, and you start doing something. Start planning for the future. Too many times across the country, many people are not doing anything to prepare for retirement. We're leaving it to the government and Social Security or nothing, or by chance. Nothing good happens by chance, I would say, especially when you're looking at long-term planning. And that's what retirement planning is about. Take some time, look at it, and plan. As soon as you start working, you're working years, even if you're working a summer job as a teenager, put some money away. You was taught to do that. Hey, save for this, save for that. But now when you graduate high school, you're working an adult job, you're an adult, it's about planning. Planning for the future. What will life be like when you're not working?
So I know we talk about it's never too late to start planning, but is it ever too early to start planning?
I would say no, because it's about looking at the future and what you want to have for your future. How do you want to spend your time? What do you want to do? Yes, that young person, a teenager, he's not making much money, but he still needs to plan for it. Okay, now when you graduate and you're working that full-time job, it's time to start planning for your future. Start planning for retirement. Start looking at it. What do you want to do? How do you want to live your life?
And I know just generally as our population grows, we are living longer. So back in the day, our parents, our grandparents didn't have to plan for a long-term retirement situation. So these days, talk about what kind of situation we're left with.
And that is so true, because think about it. Back our parents and grandparents, when they looked at retirement, they stopped working at 65, about 75 or so. They're dead. They expected to die then. Now, if we start working at 65, it's easy for us to live to see our 90s. That's 30 years. That's 30 years of not working. 30 years of every day being a Saturday. Can you imagine that, Jessica?
No.
What do you like doing on Saturdays? Now, every day is a Saturday. If we're not properly planning for that, you're going to run out of money. Run out of money in retirement is not a lot of fun. I think we've all seen and heard those older people and elderly people that say, hey, I want a fixed income, I want a fixed budget. I can't go there, I can't do this. Oh, that's too far to drive because how much gas is. Is that how you want to spend your retirement life?
Well, let's talk about Social Security. So also people in that generation depend on Social Security. What do you think our situation is going to be with that? Is that something we can count on, and where do we go from there?
Wow, that's a really good question, Jessica. Social Security is not what it used to be when our parents and grandparents used it and first, retired. Will it be there when we go to retire and our children go to retire? Yes. In what shape and what form and what capacity? I cannot answer that. However, now we're relying more on our personal assets for retirement to supplement our Social Security. Because many jobs nowadays don't give a pension. When our parents were young, they retired, they had a pension coming from their job. Social Security was another piece of their retirement. Well, now, jobs giving a pension, that's far and few in between. So that extra money is coming from your retirement planning. What are you doing? Employers are leaving it up to you to plan for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of scary because I guess we used to have more handed to us, pension, Social Security. Now it's really up to us. So let's kind of dig into that. Like where do we go to be able to plan? Is it something we need to depend on ourselves for? Should we dig into it, start setting money aside? Do we go to our employer? Do we seek help outside of that? What do you recommend?
It's always good to talk to a professional. Yes, many employers, they have an IRA or 401k, some facet of that, but I still recommend people talk to a professional because that professional is he's not only looking out for your best interest, he's looking out to see, okay, what's going to happen to you? What do you want to be long term? Because that's what it is. It's long-term planning. Jessica, when we look at things on a short-sighted, short results, that's what we get, short-term results. So, and looking at talking to a professional is when, okay, what are my goals? What do I like doing? Granted, we may not know when we want to retire. Things change. That's when it's also important to do a review. It's just to put it on, hey, I'm putting money in my IRA, I'm putting my money in my retirement account, I'm saving X number of dollars every month, so I should be good for retirement, and never ever look at it again. You're kind of leaving it up to chance. Will I have enough? I hope so. Will it rain tomorrow? I hope not. Will it snow tomorrow? I hope not. Is that how we want to live our life and plan for retirement? On a hope?
Not so much. Yeah. So let's just talk about sort of the main components to retirement planning and how we set money aside.
Look, well, there's many different ways. If you look at your money as you're working and going into it, you're working right now. Everyone has this here. If you look at your money as this, 1099, you're paying taxes on it. Get a paycheck, Uncle Sam gonna get some money. You're gonna pay some taxes. Everybody does that. That's just America. Okay, now there's other things we can do for retirement. Okay, you pay taxes later, you put it away, and it grows and invests in the market and all these other things. Great. That's 1099 later. You're paying it later. But then there's another thing as far as paying for your taxes, where it's tax-free. You think you would like some money that's tax-free?
Absolutely.
That's what many times we don't think about. Oh, no, I don't need that. I don't need this. Or, well, what is that tax-free money? How can I grow that tax-free bucket? Because if you look at your money, if you put your money into a bucket or 3 different piles on the table, tax now, tax later, and tax-free, which one would you want?
Tax-free?
Yes.
How do we go about kind of putting most of our money in that bucket? Is that an option?
Wow. I wouldn't tell anyone, hey, put all your money in one bucket. Because you always want to be, diversify it, spread it out. It's kind of, how you say, you want to divide the wealth because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
When you put all your eggs in one basket, if that basket gets a hole or something happens, that's not a good thing.
Okay.
But now, when you diversify, you put a little bit in each basket, and you got things spread out, it works out a little bit better. But also, you're looking at what the percentages are as far as what do you have in this basket, what do you have in your tax-free basket, what do you have in your tax-later basket. Your tax-now basket, that's your income. Hey, many times we live life like this. I work. I got to make more money. I got to work really hard so I can make more money. At some point in time, we have to get to a point where we're going to have to make our money work for us. That's where you're really you're working smarter, not harder.
So we're talking about the 3 buckets here. Help me a little bit more with what goes into those buckets. I know the tax-free one is probably one that all of us would like to stick all of our eggs in, but I'm hearing you with the hole in the bucket. That's a little intimidating. So talk to me about the other 2 buckets and maybe what goes in those and how we go about doing that.
Okay. Well, your tax later bucket would be your IRA, your TSP account for your government workers.
Well, break it down for us, TSP.
True Savings Plan.
Okay.
Many government workers, what the United States government has done for us, the military and federal government workers, they offer them a True Savings Plan, with the short name TSP.
Okay.
Then you got a 401k or IRA. Some companies contribute to it, it's contributory. Great. I would always tell someone that's free money. If you're able to do so and it doesn't hurt your budget, do it. Because what's going to happen is this. You're putting up to 3%, 5%, whatever your employer is going to match. Great, that's free money. Then what else we go in that tax-free bucket? You got municipal bonds, then you got your whole life, cash value life insurance, and the Roth. Well, municipal bonds and the Roth, they're still in the market, subject to the ups and downs in the market. It's great, provided they're getting a good return and things are going well and the market's doing great. But now cash value life insurance from a good mutual insurance company, You're not worried about the market. It's going to continue to grow. And as you get older, the money's going to be there for you. And you can get a living benefit out of it. You don't have to wait till you die to get your benefit from it.
Well, that brings up a good point. You're talking about, we're talking about life insurance a little bit too. So how do we go about exploring that avenue as well?
You had mentioned earlier how your grandmother had bought you a life insurance policy when you was a little
I did.
baby.
The day after I was born, my grandmother pulled out a life insurance policy on me. And I was talking to Lawrence a little bit earlier about, now what? Is this something that I continue to put money into? Do I need to supplement that? Am my employer, seeking help outside of that? I mean, do I continue to put money into something that was drawn out on me at, day one of my life?
Perfect example. There are some companies where if you had a life insurance policy with them as a child, you're able to purchase more. The premium never changes. The cash value continues to grow. The death benefit grows. That's coming from a mutual insurance company. I don't know what company your grandmother chose or what happened there, but that's still a good thing because you have that policy. That's something that you will always have, provided your grandmother paid for it, and she probably, at this point, she probably said, Jessica, you're working now, you're grown, here, you paid for it, it's yours.
She sure did, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was a gift for you.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
I'm willing to imagine it's probably less than what you would pay for a lunch meal.
Yes, it's pretty inexpensive, which is why I continue to pay it, but I just don't know, if it's a supplement or it's something that I need to maybe pull away from.
It all depends on the company.
Okay.
If it's a company where you're able to purchase more without medical underwriting, great. Look at it, review it. But definitely, I would say look at it, dust it off, pull it out the closet, shelf, wherever it is. Look at it, go talk to the company, and talk to the agent, whatever company it is. Then that way you can look and see, okay, what are my options? What is this really doing for me? But don't get rid of it.
Okay.
That's something that will always be there for you, okay? Now, if you're able to purchase more without medical underwriting, that's a benefit to you, Jessica. Because many times, we don't know how our health may change over the years. I've seen a young person in their 20s, a young lady in her 20s, she had breast cancer. Beyond that, it's devastating enough to even find out you have breast cancer. Not to mention in your 20s before you turn 30 years old. Can you imagine that, Jessica?
Definitely not something you plan for, especially that young.
Exactly.
So is that sort of what we're talking about when you say medical underwriting? What does that mean? Help me
Medical
understand
underwriting is when the insurance company look at you, they just want to see how healthy you really are. What is your ability or propensity to live a long life? Granted, no one can tell exactly to the letter, to the day, the year, the hour, anything, how long you're going to live, when you're going to leave here. Because if we all knew that answer, we all rush out and buy the most life insurance we can for the least amount of money so we can pass it on to the people we care and love about. That's if we do care about those people like that. But then we don't. So we have to get what we can get and plan for the future. And that's what that's about, Jessica. So medical underwriting is, they have actuaries and number crunchers. They look at things, based on your lifestyle, your health, and what you're doing and everything, and how you're living your life. How long will you live? Will you live a long life? And most women, you're going to outlive us. Men, I hate to say it, we just don't do the right things all the time. Follow your advice. Your women's advice.
We've got to keep you straight, that's for sure.
Yes. That's the good thing of having a good woman.
Ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go a little bit into life insurance while we're talking about it. I know there's a couple of options. Help me understand, if I'm going out now, I've got, the policy my grandma got for me. I've got my employer supporting me, as many employers do. But maybe what do I need to do about my family?
That's when you look at, as far as your family. I would definitely say, just like your grandmother did you, and she, gave you that gift. And that's a financial gift. You have a family, you're starting a family, you want to make sure your family's insured. Okay, sometimes starting out a young family, they may not be able to afford, insurance policy for all the children, plus the parents. So there's things that can be done, and it's called a rider. You can add the children on to the parents' policy. And then at a later time, when things change financially, you can get the children a separate policy. The big thing is this here. Everyone needs to be insured because we do not know what and when something can happen unexpectedly.
So what you're saying is what I've got saved in my emergency fund in my savings account probably isn't enough to cut it, right?
How can you truly answer that question, Jessica? If you imagine yourself to answer how much money you have in your savings account tucked away, oh, don't forget the money you have in between the mattress too, in that hidden spot, because you know y'all women put some money aside from time to time.
Never know. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, with that being said, how do you know if that's enough? Imagine not working. Imagine not receiving a paycheck. Don't just do it for a month. Do it for 6 months, a year. Do you have a year's salary saved away? Do you have a year's salary put aside? Do you have a year's salary from your savings and investments put aside? That would answer that question right there.
Those are really good questions to consider. Another thing that comes to mind is the option for whole life insurance versus term life insurance. Do you want to take an opportunity to kind of help us break that down?
And that's a very good question there. Whole life insurance and term life insurance. Many people, it's kind of like, oh, this is too much. It's all the same. What's the difference? Well, there's a very big difference between whole life insurance and term life insurance. Term life insurance, just as the name says, is there for a period of time. It's for a term, be it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or whatever. It's for a period of time. In most cases, in fact, just about all the time, the term life starts out very inexpensive. Over time, it can be more expensive because what happens? We get older. Two main things affect the price of life insurance: age and health. The older we are, the more expensive it's going to be. As our health changes when we get older, I'm not going to say deteriorates because I'm still in good health. Well, I just don't run as fast as I used to. Don't have a desire to do that anymore. But so anyway, as our health changes, as we get older, it costs a little more. That's where that term over time could be a little more expensive. Whereas a whole life policy is there, just as the name says, for your entire life. It may start out a little more expensive, but over time, because of the level payment, it balances out. So now, over time, when you get older, you're still paying that same payment, and it's there. Then also, whole life insurance develops or creates a cash value. That's the benefit to you, and if done properly, it can be not only just a benefit for, hey, I've heard people say this here, life insurance, that's not for me. That's for other people when I pass away. Well, you get a whole life insurance policy from a mutual insurance company, a top-rated mutual insurance company. It can grow to the point where not only do you have cash value in the policy, you can get more out of it than what you put into it, one. Two, you can get a living benefit from it and still have your death benefit. That's a win-win all around for you.
Now talk to me a little bit. My eyebrows went up when you said living benefit. What does that mean to the living?
Okay. To the living, what does a living benefit from your life insurance policy really mean? Well, that's where you talk about that tax diversification, because you have your IRA, your 401k, and you're pulling money from it. Uncle Sam will get some taxes from it because it was taxed later. Well, it's great when the market's up, but when the market's down, where you still need that same amount of money, you can't replace that. Now your money is going to be depleted even faster if the market goes down. You have to pull that money. We don't know what the market's going to do from day to day. But now, if the market's down, you're able to pull from another bucket. That's your tax-free bucket, the living benefit bucket of the life insurance policy. And that money is tax-free because you've already paid taxes on it.
Okay. Well, in light of buckets today and our theme, I kind of want to talk about kicking the bucket just to keep the theme light here. But what about, I've heard a little bit about death insurance. Again, I want to keep the theme, the theme light today, but talk to us a little bit about that and maybe the importance. What do you recommend?
Well, it's funny you say, because death insurance, that terminology, it's just a terminology. It means different things to different people. But now let's take those words right there, death insurance. Well, many people, and I've talked to older people and even younger people, that, hey, I don't want to pass away and leave the expense of burying me or taking care of my final expenses to my family. That's where life insurance or death insurance would take care of that. And sometimes people look at, hey, I just need enough life insurance or enough death insurance to cover all my bills. That way, I'm not leaving any bills for my family to take care of. Now, that's great, but now that's just plain and simple, just how it is, death insurance.
Okay, so
Taking
in
care of those
addition
bills.
to life insurance and your buckets, death insurance is a good option too.
Yes, because
Okay.
essentially death insurance, it provides for your burial.
Okay,
Plain and simple.
It just covers
Just covers your burial.
Gotcha, okay. So again, in the theme of buckets, I wanted to jump back because I know we just kind of touched on tax deferred. You know, when you're putting things into your IRA, you're putting things into Roth. I might be confusing
Right.
that, keep me straight. But again, we're leaving a lot of these things to chance. The market, obviously, as we know, goes up and down with our society today and what we go through. But let's jump back into the tax deferred bucket and talk to me about that. Where do we go? I know a little bit about Roth IRAs and maybe what my employer took time to explain to me, but let's explore that, you know, for our audience today and talk about the importance of doing some tax deferred.
Okay. If you look at first tax deferred, the tax deferred is just that. The money's tax deferred. You're going to pay taxes on it later.
Okay.
The Roth, that money goes into it. You've already paid taxes on it. So when you pull the money out, now it's tax free. But now the big difference, the only thing with those two, things they have in common, they're both in the market. So being in the market, what I mean by that, that's not a bad thing.
Okay.
Please do not misconstrue this as me saying, hey, the market's bad. Because over time, the market historically has done better over time. Again, you know, through the years and over time, the market has done pretty good. But you have to be in there in the market in order to get the return from it.
Okay.
And also understand that it's like weathering a storm. We've seen bad weather and storms come, and we've seen storms go. You got to give it time.
Right.
But one other thing I want to mention too, when you're in the market, it's not putting all your eggs in one investment, one type of investment. It's kind of diversifying it out so that when one thing goes down, the other thing goes up.
Okay.
So that way you're balanced there.
So, are you a market watcher? I mean, you say we're weather the storms. I'm a weather watcher. I mean, I am like, when is the next sunny day? Are we having snow? I mean, here in Richmond, you know, the weather.
Yes.
I mean, it's, 75 today, but I think they're calling for like 32 degrees in a couple of days. So is it the same thing with the market? If you're really involved with this, which I'm getting a lot of inspiration from this conversation that maybe I'll dig into a little bit more. But is it safe to be a market watcher, or do you stand back and kind of let it do its thing like you should with the weather?
A little bit of both. You kind of let it do its thing, but you don't go around like every day, multiple times throughout the day. Oh, I'm gonna check my market, check how my investment's doing, check how my investment's doing. That's like that person walking. You remember that kid when you get new shoes, you're walking around, you can't walk straight because you're looking at your shoes,
Yeah.
looking at your feet. It's kind of like that. Your feet are there. Put one foot in front of it, you're going to continue to walk. Just like the market. It's going to do what it's going to do, but you have to trust it and know. But now I'm not going to say, hey, you put your money in the market or investments and leave it alone. But that's why you have a professional do it and look at it. But no, you don't leave it totally up to them either.
Okay.
I believe in, you still got to look at it from time to time. But to look at it every day to see what it's doing,
It's too much stress.
That's right. Too much stress. You
Yeah.
would drive yourself crazy.
Plus, we're not experts in that field either. So, if you're watching things and you're watching it, you're thinking it's going to crash and burn, you want to pull yourself out. But what goes up must come down. Is that what,
Yes,
what goes
that's
up
a
must
good
come
way
up?
of saying it.
Maybe the other way around.
What goes up must come down, and something like that, because
Right.
it balances out. But that's where you're being diversified. Companies like New York Life, we have people that's paid, that's all they do, that's their job, to watch the market, investments. They also look at who's in charge of the investments, the companies, and so on. And that's important because you don't want to just, hey, put in the market, and now it's a big change, and nobody's told you about it. should be some type of communication there.
Well, you name dropped a little bit with New York, and I want to give you the opportunity to tell us what's coming up. How can people really dive into this, work with your company, work with you to make a plan, set goals, and move forward with their retirement planning?
Well, that's really great. New York Life, the month of April, I'm saying this month, I'm into the April 18th at 5:30 in the evening, we're hosting a financial seminar. Come out, get some information. We have a regional financial investment guy there. It's going to be there, Roger Banville. What's great about him, he's been in the business 20 years. Being in the investment business for 20 plus years, you weathered some storms. You've seen the market go up and down. That's a lot of knowledge, and you can ask those tough questions. Write down your questions, come talk to him. And then the very following day, that's on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, the 19th, I'll be speaking at the Metropolitan Business League at their office downtown Richmond, 707 East Main Street.
And I think the takeaway, what I sort of gathered from what you just said was experience. It's important to talk to a professional. And I appreciate everything you've kind of told us today and guiding us the right way. And I think talking to a professional here, talking to someone who's got years of knowledge is really the takeaway from today's conversation. And so I definitely recommend the note here that's check in, and there's light food at 6 p.m. on April 18th, New York Life, and if you need more information, you can go online. Again, thank you for joining us today for Community Talk RVA. We were happy to have you. Lawrence Roberts, we're happy to have you today. Thank you for your insight and all of your knowledge and suggestions for us to move into retirement planning comfortably. Thank you so much.
Thank you.